Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dolphin fans, Dolphin haters. It's this time of the year, everyone's favorite time of the year. I don't understand it, but we all get excited for it. It's schedule release day, and who better than Greg and me, Finn Stanza, to come out here and have a conversation with everybody about the schedule, rookie camp. What better time? Whenever there's something with Dolphins, if you want your dose of reality, you come to Finn's Talk Overtime, where we'll give you your dose of reality. Greg, how you been?
I've been good. I've been following along a little bit here and there. I'm excited about the schedule release. I actually like schedule release during the off season. You get to plan trips and things like that. So it's always a good time. I look forward to seeing the schedule. Not as much as the draft, of course, but I still look forward to seeing it. So it's always good to have it on paper and to be able to say, okay, this is where I'm going to be. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, when we talk Dolphins, it's usually after the kind of off season that we've had, which has all never been very positive. It's nice to know that we have something to look forward to, because the best part about the Dolphin season is right now, because like Steve Malloy, who just joined us in the chat, we're 0-0. We can't screw this up. We're 500. Where the Dolphins like to be. We're undefeated, where we've been once in our lives. So, honestly, we have a lot to talk about. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Obviously, moments throughout the season, Greg and I have busy lives and everything like that with our jobs and families and all that. But when things drop, like schedule release, with a rookie camp, things like that, now we're heading into almost June, post June 1st, where a lot more is going to happen over the next month or two before the big summer slowdown hits and training camp starts. You'll see a lot more of us, as much as we possibly can, at our number one spot on Thursday nights. Apologies for the delay today. It was really supposed to be 8 o'clock, but family called, had a family school event, so I'm here, excited to talk Dolphins. So, Greg, as I know, you were on a show a couple weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago,
With Steve.
With Steve. He took over my spot. Thank you, Steve, for stealing my spotlight to talk about the draft. Because as we were doing the draft show, when I was on it, I think I was on it for, 10 of like the 12 hours. I think I went for dinner, said I was done. I came back and they were still talking. And then I went on for another 2 hours. It was because I basically poked the bear with a few people and basically called Lamar Jackson a guy who would never win the Super Bowl. And I think I blew up the chat when I said that. I did that a little bit on purpose, but I do that in jest. But he may have a chance now that they re-signed Derrick Henry. That would have been nice if we had Derrick Henry, don't you think?
Yeah.
That would have been nice, eh? So as I was going through the draft and I was experiencing it with everybody, I was always thinking about you and Brett, and I saw you in the comments about how the draft, how we think, how it should be outside in. A lot of people were so worried about going inside out. Obviously, I know you talked with Steve, and I know you and Brett talked with him about how you felt, and I saw your comments about how the Dolphins continue to do the wrong philosophy. But when you look at I want to get your opinion on this. I don't disagree with you in any of the least. I think that going to the trenches low in the draft, I thought Kenneth Grant was going to be I think he'll be a great player for this team. I think he will be. So was Christian Wilkins. Doesn't mean they're the right pick at the right spot. Like I kept on saying on night one,
right. Love
the player, hate the spot. Like Savainea, I have to say the Savainea. I have to say his name with the Savai because that's what he says. I love the play. I like the player. Don't love giving up 4 draft picks. I think this was more of a volume draft. But I want to get your opinion, not necessarily on the positions, before we get to rookie camp, because I haven't had a chance to ask you this. What do you think of the overall player? Not the pick. What did you think of our top draft pick as an actual player, as a talent, as a player who can actually be a 10-year starter, 3-down D lineman in the NFL?
So I don't know if he is a 3-down player in the NFL. That's my big thing with him. All right. That it's one of the issues that you have drafting a defensive tackle in the first or second round, in my opinion, is that how many snaps are they going to get? All right. Once the offense dictates and once the offense personnel changes, and they basically come from a running formation, a running personnel group, into a passing personnel group. 3 wides, 4 wides, 1 running back, maybe taking the running back out, maybe going, a 0-2 formation, 2 tight ends, and with 3 wide receivers. Okay, does Grant get substituted for because you want a pass rusher? All right, I'm not sure if he's a 3-down player, and if you invested the number 13 overall pick in a guy who's only going to play 50-60% of the snaps, I think you did yourself a disservice there. Okay, if he is a true 3-down type player, if he is Zach Sealer, if he is somebody who can get after the pass rusher, if he's somebody that can get you 7-8 sacks in a year, then I like him as a player. And by saying I like him as a player, that doesn't mean I would still have taken him number 13 overall. That's the point that I continue to make. It's not that I don't like the player. I don't like where they're drafted. I don't like the team philosophy building. All right. And something that's happened since the draft, by the way, okay, that I'm just found, fascinating in a way. All right. Calais Campbell, a potential future Hall of Fame player, a defensive tackle who played for Miami last year, was soft because now we're not soft anymore. So I just find that sort of amusing that Calais Campbell, according to some Dolphin fans that I read about and I hear about, and even some people in the media, all right, saying how this team's not soft anymore because of 2 draft picks. All right. Yeah, I guess Calais Campbell was soft. So, I learn something new every day.
Is Zach
Yeah,
Sealer
Zach
soft?
Sealer's soft.
Is Jalen Ramsey soft?
Yeah, that's it. That's
Is Jordan Brooks soft?
Yeah, I saw an interview snip today with Devon Achane saying, yeah, all the people who called us soft in the past, remember those words because this is a different team. We're not going to be soft this year. Okay, you've added maybe 2 or 3 players in this draft, maybe a player or 2 in free agency that's going to play for you, and all of a sudden that changes you from being soft.
The only thing I would say is the players they drafted are more physical and have a little more punch than the players they currently have on their roster who are talking, right? So it's more fodder for social media. But for example, Devon Achane, Tua, Waddle, Jonnu Smith, like Austin Jackson, Aaron Brewer, like Duke, like they're not like people like that. They're not physical. When you hear nose tackles, because when it's all about the how you can market it, right? When you see a 350-pound player, or you have a Samoan Polynesian player who basically is only covered for them and is going to protect them. Like I don't know if you ever saw that movie, Necessary Roughness, the one in South Texas, where they had the Manu, and I'll protect you. That's what they did. They went to go get their Manu, right?
Well, I mean, again, I've been saying this here, since the draft. You can't play on the offensive and defensive line in the NFL being soft. You just can't. No. All right. Players might not be good, but they're not soft. They're still physical. They had to have been physical at some point in their life to play at this level, at those positions. All right. You picking up short yardage, okay, rushing the ball in 3rd and 2 and 4th and 1 and things like that to get the physical label. All right. It's always been about the running back or the physical ball carrier first, and then the O-line second.
Yeah.
All right. The tush push works not because the O-line is good. It works because Jalen Hurts is a man child, who can squat like 800 pounds. All right. You put Tua behind that offensive line, you're not doing the tush push. All right. Lusaka Polite basically went for like 2 seasons where he converted every third and fourth and one that he was handed to him. Okay, you didn't hand him the ball with the same old line, all right, and you don't pick it up. Does that mean all of a sudden they were soft? No, all right. The the Dolphins are labeled soft because they have Smurfs at the skill position players. I'm sorry. All right. And it's not that Devon Achane is a bad player. It's not Tariq Hill is a bad player. It's not Jalen Waddle
They're
is a bad player.
small.
But they're small. They're not
But see,
physical. They're not gonna run somebody over to get that extra yard. And that's what you need to be physical.
yeah.
All right. It boggles my mind sometimes that we still go with these same old tropes that we did in the 80s and 90s. It's not the same game.
Yeah. I understand.
So, but anyway, we got off on a little tangent there. I'm sorry about that.
That's what we always do. I just want to pull up because I want to make sure I have it. Before we go, I have one more question about the draft, but let's just take a look here. So, in terms of rookie camp, obviously within the draft itself, I never had a chance to ask you this. Who was your favorite player picked in the draft for the Dolphins? If you had to look at all 7 rounds, who stood out for you as the player you think gives you the most sense of like that was a good pick at that location?
Honestly, I really like the Jordan Phillips pick in the 5th round.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind the flyer on Ollie Gordon either. Okay.
I like him.
Again, I don't think he's an every down back. I think he's a situational back, but I think he can add value. All right, and that's important. There's a position on the team that he can help us with. All right, and when you draft in the 6th round, that's what you want. You want a spot player who can help you every now and then. All right, I personally am very intrigued by Ewers.
Are you really? Are you really?
I like 2 years ago he was projected as being a 1st round pick.
Yeah.
All right. Sarkisian does a pretty good job with quarterbacks, and they're well coached in a way. Okay. I don't necessarily like his offense, but they're well coached.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he's got, you can say 2.5 to 3 quarterbacks in the league right now. Mm-hmm. All right, with Tua, Hurts, Milroe,
Mac Jones,
Mac Jones. Yeah, that's the other guy, right? But there's a reason why. All right, those guys are in the NFL is because they're pretty talented and they've got some pretty good coaching.
Yeah.
So let's see what he can do. I just hope they give him a chance. I hope they say, well, he's the 7th round pick. He's not going to do anything. We're not even going to. He's a camp arm. I hope that's not the case.
Yeah.
Because I think there's talent there.
Okay. During they brought in quite. They found if you look at the picks, you have Grant, Savanea, Phillips, Marshall. People were hard on that pick on Marshall. Trader, I guess, to connect with Jordan Phillips. Ollie Gordon, I think, will be fine. Zeke Biggers, I think, I think all 7 players make the team. I don't think there's any question that they're going to be on the roster. I think if you look at the undrafted rookies, people are being high on B.J. Adams, Brandon Adams, and then they're also, I think, a little high on Andrew Armstrong. But how many? Because they're bigger, right? That was the one thing that now you're talking about physicality. They're looking for size. That's all they're doing. They didn't, because that's the one thing they didn't do in this draft. They didn't draft Smurfs. That's the one thing they didn't do. They didn't draft Smurfs.
No, they didn't. They didn't. But again, okay, what comes first? All right, thinking about this. Is the quarterback dictating that you have to draft and play Smurfs, or is the reason for the offense and the quick release and all the timing because of the Smurfs, right? It's a chicken and an egg, in my opinion. Tua, it throws well on timing. All right. Big players don't necessarily, unless you're really special, don't necessarily get off the bump at the line of scrimmage, and it can throw your timing off. All right. You need the Hills and Waddles of the world, the really fast, smaller guys, basically to prevent kind of getting roughed up at the line of scrimmage, because if they get past it, you're screwed, because they're going to get deep on you and really hurt you.
Yeah.
Right. The bigger, slower wide receivers don't necessarily do that.
Yeah.
So is the reason why Tua has played well with smaller wide receivers because of that? Or because you have smaller wide receivers, are you on this timing short, passing game that they're on? All right. So I'm interested to see how that works. I personally believe that McDaniel came in and said, this is the way to get Tua to improve. We need to get smaller, faster guys on the outside that can get into the gaps on time. So,
do you think this draft, before we move on, because obviously we're going to do remaining needs, we'll talk about the players, coaches, everything at the end. But I want to focus a lot on the schedule and how it helps and hurts the Dolphins at different points. Was this a Mike McDaniel draft? Was this a Anthony Weaver focused draft? Or was this, or what I think it is, this is a sign that Chris Greer is not worried about his job, and that even if he were to be taken out of the position of general manager, it will be through his own choice and given the opportunity to move to another, like a more of an advisor or president or VP of football operations versus being the GM. Like this felt like a very type of draft where the coach and the play, not as much coach, but the GM felt very comfortable in his role. He was not worried about losing his job. He did not swing for the fences here.
I would tend to agree with that. I don't think he loses his job based on this draft. I don't think he has any worry about that.
No.
And this to me is kind of the Greer bread and butter type draft. These are the types of players that he wants to draft. He has the wrong philosophy about building on the offensive and defensive lines. And this is what he continues to do, in my opinion. Again, this draft was a repeat of the tank draft, the Wilkins draft. You draft a DT at 13. Your very next pick is an interior offensive lineman. All right. He took Dieter in the third round. Right after that, he takes the guard in the second round. This pick. I mean, it's. When you continue to build the wrong way, there's a reason why they don't excel. There's a reason why they don't get to the place where they want to get to in the off season and late in the season. They had an opportunity in this draft to address the defensive backfield without trading picks to move up. And they didn't. And I think that's the part that's going to come back to hurt. And, we're jumping ahead here, but that's the remaining needs. They could have addressed the remaining needs. And again, I just come back to the Calais Campbell must have been soft last year. So that's why you had to do this.
Yeah. And then we're going to talk about the remaining needs, because I feel a lot of the players that left or that veterans who didn't come to Miami has less to do with has more to do with who's running the show than actually coming to South Beach. I think what's going on out there with the people, the way they're talking about this guy, about the player, about the person that I have been hardest on since the day we first met.
Yeah.
There's a reason why all these veterans are gone, because Calais Campbell did not go to Arizona to go to a better football team. He took a lateral move.
He took a lateral move, and he took the same amount of money.
Why did X not want to come back? Why does Jalen Ramsey want to leave? There's one and it's not Chris Greer. It's not Chris Greer.
No,
So
it's the
it's the
it's the
mentality of the
on-field
team.
product.
Yeah,
It's the on-field product,
yeah,
and there are two types of veterans. All right, essentially, there's the veteran that wants to basically ride out the rest of his career and try to make as much money as possible.
yeah,
Okay, and they don't really care where it's going to go. Just pay me. Okay.
yeah,
Then there's the other veteran who's like, I want to at least go out winning something if I can, and they make the decision to do that. Calais Campbell probably could have went to any team in the league, to be honest with you. All
Everyone
right.
thought Ravens. Everyone thought Ravens, but
Yeah, but it is what it is. And I think Campbell basically just wanted to kind of go home. He likes
yeah,
Arizona. He wanted to do that, which is fine. He's earned that right. I think Ramsey and others want to win, and they see the writing on the wall here, and I can't argue with them,
yeah,
to
I
be
don't blame
honest
you.
with you.
So I thought we would do we do it a little different versus going game by game. I thought we would look at the home games, then we'll look at the away games on a one by one basis, and we'll run through the schedule and we'll do our prediction, our schedule release predictions, where we look at the schedule in terms of a group and say where are the highs and the lows. But let's just look at that the perspective. So a first home game will be week 2. I was shocked when I actually saw this that they're actually giving us a 1:00 game in the month of September, because last year they purposely avoided giving Dolphins that advantage.
Yep.
So they're going in and they're facing the Patriots. I think that to get that out of the way at the early in the season against a division rival, I think is great. Because I think I think that the Patriots are still going to be finding their footing. What do you think of that as being the first home game of the season?
I am pleasantly surprised and think it's a big advantage for the Dolphins to be playing the 3 division teams as early as they are, starting with the Patriots.
Yeah.
The Patriots are going to be a better team at the end of the year than they are at the start of the year, just because of who their new coach and the youth on the roster. They're going to be better at the end of the year. So if the two division games against the Patriots were like week 8 and then week 15 or something like that, they would be harder games. Yeah. So I actually think this early schedule really helps the Dolphins. Okay, and it starts that way.
Okay, great. Then, like you said, week 4, our next home game, we're going against the New York Stinking Jets on prime time. So what are your thoughts on already having a prime, we have a few, but having a primetime game on a Monday, a 7:15 start, that's still going to be very humid. Still going to be light out, actually. So that could be a little bit of a sweat bath. So to have 2 games at home in September against your division rivals, another positive for the Dolphins to start off the year.
Yeah, I mean, basically the first month of the year, you're facing 2 of your teams in your division at home. Yeah, you want that. I mean, and essentially the weaker teams as well. So I'm okay with it. I like I said, I this first part of the schedule really stacks up well for them.
Yeah. Then week 6, because it's a night, I actually kind of like it because of the fact that it's home, away, home, away, home, away, home. It kind of works. Like it really works for them. And then on the 12th of October, week 6, obviously we all know what the narrative is going to be there. Is this the first time Justin Herbert's come to Miami?
I believe so. I
think there might be more cheers for Herbert than there will be for Tua. Can you imagine? Imagine if Tua is struggling to start the year and Herbert comes in. Could you imagine? I could see the Boo Birds coming out and Justin Herbert getting all the love in Hard Rock Stadium. I could just see it. That's going to be an interesting matchup with the coach who Stephen Ross always wanted to hire.
Correct. That's the storyline for that one, in my opinion, is what the is what the coach is going to be. And I personally think that the Chargers are going to be one of the top 4, 5, 8 teams in the AFC this
Yeah.
year. So having them travel across country for a 1 o'clock game, again, that's a benefit for the Dolphins and the schedule.
Yeah.
You got an early October 1 o'clock game with a West Coast team, a team that probably is better than you, but because of that, it gives you a chance to win it. It gives you a better chance to win it than you would have had normally.
Yeah.
I'll say it that way.
Yeah. Then we jump to week 9, our arch nemesis, but we get them like the people who outside of the Bills, this is the other team that always spanks us around, except for week 2 of 2022, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. And Derrick Henry are coming to Hard Rock for another primetime game. The memory I have is Tua coming in, the only game he ever played without the crosses on his cheeks. What do you think of that? October 30th, week 9, mid-season. But that's the midpoint of the season. You face a team like the Ravens.
I think that's going to be a rough one for them. The Ravens are a legit Super Bowl type team.
Except they have Lamar who can't win.
Yeah, but you know what? We also know that Miami struggles against running quarterbacks. And there's a handful of them in this opening, the first half dozen weeks of the season that are going to give them problem. Fields and the Jets are going to give them a problem with that, I think.
No, me too.
I really do. So I mean, I still like the Dolphins to win that game, but mobile quarterbacks are going to give this team issues.
Yes.
And the Ravens are really good. The Ravens are really good.
They didn't have to move. I knew every time they draft, they didn't have to budge, and every player fell in their lap in the first couple of rounds. Every player. When Malachi Starks, who was a potential top 13, 14 pick, sat there, you know how much he literally won the jackpot. I get to go play with Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like Ozzie Newsome knows nothing about safety play.
Yeah.
So and how important that is. I mean, how many good safeties has that team had over the years? My God.
Jesus.
So yeah, no, it's a short week. The Ravens are on the road on a Thursday night. That's usually advantage home team. The Ravens are just really good.
The only advantage for the Dolphins there, because we're going to get to the away games, is where they're playing 4 days before. It's no travel. They're playing in Atlanta, so they go from Atlanta right to that's a puddle. That's less than an hour flight. So they're not really going to be suffering there. Then we get 10 days off after we're physically brutalized by the Ravens. And then our daddy comes to town on a 1 o'clock game. Thank God it's a 1 o'clock game against Josh Allen and the Bills. So that's two things good. We get a 1 o'clock game and we get 10 days off before we have to face Josh Allen.
Correct. It's a mini bye, which helps them out. And if you think about it, earlier in the year, the Jets game is on a Monday night game at home. All right. That follows a Thursday night game as well. So there's a mini bye there.
Yeah.
So the Dolphins, when it comes to those types of scheduling and who they're playing after the mini buys, it's an advantage. Again, I still think the Bills are better. I think the Bills are probably going to be favored to win that game just because of history and everything else. But because of the schedule, it even syncs up a little bit. It moves Miami closer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
for me, these 3 games I'm talking about, the 3 home games, this is the hardest spot of the season. You got the Ravens, got the Bills, and now you have less than a week. The next day, you're getting on a plane. You're gonna lose 6 or 7. You're gonna be 6-7 hours ahead. You're gonna lose all that time. You're going to a beautiful place where the Dolphins have never, in my last couple of years of this Mike McDaniel, Brian Flores time of the tank, they haven't won out there. It's a home game, and you're going against Jaden Daniels and the Commanders in Spain. Of all the teams I didn't want to face, of all the home teams, that was one team I did not want to face out there. What did you think of that? What do you think of that placement of that
So,
game?
so you say that, right? And I'm thinking, in the back of my mind, I was thinking there's probably only one or two teams that are going to go to Spain with Miami because they're going to want a really good team to go with against Miami there. Yeah, Washington was one of them. So Washington being the team to go wasn't surprising to me.
No.
But no, this is the gauntlet. These three games, Ravens, Bills, Commanders,
Right
is
there.
the gauntlet. If you go 0-3,
Season's over.
it's going to be a hard damn. It's going to be hard.
I'll put it to
A
you
hard
this way.
damn time to get to the
No.
playoffs.
If they lose those 3 games in a row, do you know what comes after the Commanders game? What comes after?
Well, it's a bye week, and then
So if they're at 500 or worse, and let's say in the first 8 seasons, let's say they're 5-3. Let's say in the first 8 weeks they're 5-3, or they're 6-2. If they come out of the next 3 games 3 in a row, losing those 3 to those powerhouses, and they don't even show up, and those are considered 3 home games, McDaniel does not come. McDaniel might as well stay in Spain.
McDaniel might not survive that because
if he loses all 3, he's gone.
Yeah,
Good as
because
he's cooked.
Again, that it furthers the narrative of this team can't beat good teams.
Yeah.
All right, and yeah, I mean, it would not surprise me if that happened, to be honest with you, because essentially after that. All right, the season, the regular season's
not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, you have a soft back end of this season.
You get to come back
after
the New
Commanders.
Orleans Saints, who have Tyler Shaw, Spentler Rattler, and who else?
Correct.
Like they basically have 4 games in a row. Yes, one is in Spain, but you are the home team. You're going to have the crowd. Right. You're going to have all that. Like if you can't come out of there 3-1, I will be proud of this team. They can come out of those 4 games 3-1. And if they drop to the Ravens, or they drop one to the Bills, or they drop one to the Commanders, for example, if they beat the Bills, beat the Ravens, lose a close one to the Commanders, come back and beat the Saints, I'm fine. They don't have to win the Commanders because of all the games, by the way, the one game they can't afford, the games they can't afford to lose are the Ravens and the Bills. If they lose to the Saints, or they lose a game to the Saints and they have one at home where everyone gets frustrated, of all the games that don't affect you as much in your standings will be the Commanders game. Of all the games for confidence level, because you need the Saints game for confidence heading in after the bye, because you're not getting a break after that and you're going to be well rested. And the other one, you're going to have to be facing 2 brutal games and then you're traveling. The Commanders game is the one game I won't be upset if they lose. The other 3, they need to win. They have to win.
Right. And I mean, we're going to go over the away games here in a little bit too, but all right, if you think about the season as a whole, okay, and I know we're going to go over the away games, but if you think of the season as a whole, you are playing against the Chargers and the AFC North, okay? The Chargers, because they're in the division with Kansas City, is going to be potentially playing for a wild card. All right. The AFC North is a juggernaut with 3 really strong teams, in my opinion, and all 3 of those teams are going to be vying for playoff spots. All right. Those games are huge for Miami to have to win. All right. The AFC games that they're playing this year are massive. Massive, because you're playing everybody that you think you're going to be contending with to get into the playoffs. And we go Ravens and Bills. All right. We have the Steelers coming up, which is, I believe, the next game after the Saints.
No, it's the Jets, but we'll get to those 2.
Oh, yeah, you're at the Jets, at the Steelers. But then you got the Bengals at home, okay? That's going to be a huge game, potentially.
Yep.
All right? That's going to be a huge game for you to try to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it just you cannot afford to lose, especially at home, these AFC games.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah, because you have in December, after we'll get to the 2 away games, but we have the Bengals. Luckily, we played the Bengals at home, so we're not
Yeah.
going to have to deal with cold weather in Cincinnati.
Right.
You're going against another guy who Tua is compared to. These are put-up games for Tua. Tua gets Herbert this year. He gets Lamar. He gets Josh Allen. People talk about Tua. Show this is your opportunity. People are going to. He is facing. Think about the quarterbacks he's facing this year. Like you have Drake May. I don't really count. You have Josh Allen. You have Justin Herbert. You have Jamar Jackson. You have Jaden Daniels. You have Joe Burrow. Show up. And we'll get the Joe Burrow game.
Yeah,
I think,
Baker Mayfield too. I mean, you have, at home, all right, at home,
all at home.
all of those games are at home. Yeah, you're facing some of the top quarterbacks in the league. All right, show up
at home.
Show up at
no
home.
Weather excuse. Zero weather
in front of your home crowd. Show that you're better than these guys. I want to see it. I really do. We'll go over the away games and stuff, but you got the Bengals and you got the Buccaneers. Those aren't easy teams to beat at home.
No. Yeah, no, not at all.
And then you got the away schedule and stuff like that. But yeah, prove it, show up, do it. Yeah. All right. I don't think they're gonna go to the playoffs this year, but they have every opportunity to.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Then we have the game that I'm most disappointed in that is so deep in the season because it's the worst time of the year to be in Florida is the Bucs. Because for me, my buddy, one of my oldest, closest friends, is a massive Bucs fan. We wanted to make it more of like a boys' trip at one point, but that ain't happening because I ain't touching Florida at Christmas, and those tickets are going to be so expensive because that's when the snowbirds are there. But to go against Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, that group is pretty. That's going to be a tough test. Like that's an important game because I guarantee you the Bucs are going to be fighting for the division this year, and we're going to be fighting for a play. We might be fighting for a playoff spot. That's a massive, massive Florida game.
No, it is. It is the last. I would say this at the Steelers versus the Bengals versus the Buccaneers. Those are all teams playing for the playoffs at that time of year. I don't think the Patriots will be, but you've got to go to Foxborough in January now, to end the year on a potentially must-win game.
Yeah. The game, and the last game we're going to talk about, the reason I want to do away games last was because that last game, as I've said every year, if they're going into that game with something on the line, they're toast. They're toast. So let's move back up. So week one, the reason why I found week one so interesting, and I have it, is Greg Maney. Greg Maney. Greg Maney.
You'll get it right
on purpose. I have to pronounce it. By the way, how do you spell Greg? How do you say Greg? Is it Craig? Is it Greg? It's always a joke, right? They're in your home turf.
Yeah, no.
What do you think? I think that couldn't have been more of a softball, a soft little gift. You get to go into a dome against a team who doesn't know who their quarterback is in week one.
Yeah.
And the team that trolled your team on their schedule release.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think of game one? Is Greg Miney going to be there?
I don't know. I'll say it that way. I don't know. Not yet. Let's put it this way. I don't know if I'm going to go to Miami for a game, but I might go to 2 or 3 away games. And I'm still trying to figure that out. I do think I want to go to Carolina though. And I might go to
$5.
Yeah, and I might go to Atlanta too, because I heard the dome is amazing. So, yeah, I mean, it's a game. If you want to start the season right, it's a game you have to win for Miami. I will say it that way. But I don't know if they will. It's going to be a better game than what I think most people
Yeah, well, that game
Ridiculous.
actually cost us last year.
Yeah, I mean,
You would have played if Raheem Mostert didn't fumble that football, you're in the
yeah,
playoffs.
yeah. No, look. I was at that game last year. All right, that game sucked. It was not a fun watch.
Yeah.
But Taylor's going to be back, and he didn't
Who
play
is
in the
their
Dolphin
quarterback?
game.
Who is their quarterback?
Uh,
That's who we don't know. We don't know.
I think it'd be Richardson, but who knows?
Then week 3, Thursday night. Luckily, it's not in the winter this time. We go visit Daddy, and we go to Buffalo early in the year.
It's a tough place to play. I don't care if it is. I don't care
No
what time of
snowballs,
years
though.
it is. But it's still a Thursday night game. It's a short week, and everybody and their brother's going to be thinking about the short week of Buffalo coming to Miami last year, and what ended up happening. So
Yeah.
I don't feel good about it. Let's put it that way. Of the first 5 games, that's the one. Miami could
We'll
very
get to the
easily
record.
go.
We'll get to the
Yeah,
record.
yeah, Miami very easily could be 4-1, but I don't see them playing in that game. I I've been burned too many times to think we're getting closer to Buffalo. I'll say it that way.
The
We're
only way we
not.
get closer to Buffalo is if Buffalo is stupid enough to re-sign Jordan Poyer. Because he would like to go back there. Then week 5, we get to go to Carolina to go visit Rob Hunt. Tickets will probably be very cheap there.
Well, you know what?
They don't believe in their team there.
I don't think it's not the Carolina team from the last couple of years. They're getting better. All right.
I love who they drafted. I love that guy.
I thought they had a fantastic
Their wide
draft as
receiver,
well.
I wanted McMillan. I like him a lot.
Yes. And I have no faith in Miami secondary right now. So,
but they're big. Did you hear? At rookie camp, people couldn't believe how ridiculously big Ashton Davis and Nifatu were. They're massive. They're huge.
Fine. Okay.
They're huge.
We'll see what happens.
They're strong. They look nice. Jordan Poyer. People, just because someone looks big doesn't mean they play big, right?
Correct.
A lot of big players who play small.
No, what's the famous saying? Looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane, right? I mean, you never know.
Plays like Tarzan. How about the fact that our head coach looks like Jane and looks like Tarzan? Looks like both, right?
So no,
but Carolina, that should be an easy win. It's an outside division. It's outside the conference. They should not struggle there.
Well, it's the NFC South, all right. Yeah. And essentially 3 of the 4 teams that you're playing should be gimmies.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I mean, and Atlanta, the Saints, the Panthers, maybe Atlanta should be easy, but they might be better than most people think. The only game is the Tampa Bay game, in my opinion, and you get them at home. So, you should make some hay against the NFC South. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Then week 7, we go into Cleveland. First question. When Dolphins head into Cleveland, who will be the starting quarterback? Will it be Flacco, Gabriel, or Shedeur?
I think it's probably going to be Gabriel by that time. I think Flacco starts the year. But I think for week 4 or 5, it's going to go to one of the rookies. It would look bad to go to Shedeur over your, what was it, 3rd round pick?
3rd round pick.
Yeah. So, I mean, but if you go with the best player, maybe.
Would you have drafted him? I never asked you. Would you have drafted him?
Who?
Instead of getting Jordan Phillips, would you have drafted Shedeur?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't have a problem, all right, with players marketing themselves and being cocky.
Kenny
and
Pickett
things
won't be on
that.
the team, Steve. Small hands.
you know, I don't have a problem with a player being confident. If you can't handle that as a professional franchise, then shame on you. All right. And I don't have a problem with Dion being vocal either. Go for it. If you have a problem as a professional organization with that, shame on you. Can the kid play? Can the kid make plays? And guess what? He did in Colorado on a team that didn't have a whole heck of a lot of talent. All right. On a team that basically required him to play very, very well every single week to have a chance to win.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take that. I'll take a chance on that, especially in the 5th round. I mean, at that point, you're just playing with house money.
Yeah.
If he becomes good at that rate, hell yeah, do it. That's why I don't mind Ewers.
Yeah.
Or
nothing to
Ewers.
lose.
Yeah.
I have no problem with Wilson either. Let players who
No.
have talent, who are athletic, try.
Yes. Just don't pigeonhole them into running the Tua offense, right? I mean,
exactly.
yeah, make it, let them play it to their strengths. That's all I say. That's all I say. But that's not a gimme game either.
No,
I don't care who the quarterback is. Playing in Cleveland against that defense, Myles Garrett, yeah.
You forgot about Mason Graham.
Yeah,
people are saying, but that's the fight. That's going to be prediction. That's what everyone's going to do. They're going to compare Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant to each other. Who helped who more?
Yeah, it's going to be a good game.
Yeah,
that's not a gimme.
Yeah, we almost lost to Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Remember that? Week 8, we go to Atlanta. Okay, to face Michael Penix and the $45 million backup in Kirk Cousins. I don't see there being a problem there. They should win that game.
You would hope. They'd win that game.
Yeah.
I don't. There's no team in the NFC South that scares me. Let's put it that way. There's and the one team that I think is the easiest to beat in the AFC North that you're playing is Cleveland, but you're playing in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And that's it's a crapshoot there, especially if you're not a dominant team.
Exactly. And then we have a long break. Like we literally go from week 8 all the way to week 13, including a bye, week 14, including a bye. And luckily we get to go to New York to face the Jets in early December, where it's still going to be pretty warm. It's like we can wear a sweater there like this. Yeah. So that's a pretty good time to go there. 1:00 start. You don't have to worry about the cold at night. That's a good place but that should not be. It's always a difficult game in New York, but who knows? Zach Wilson. It might be Zach Wilson coming in a little bit. You never know. You never know.
But that again, that should be a win. And honestly, all right, we are 6 away games into the away games. At Buffalo is the only one that should be a loss. Yeah. If you're a good team, and if you're challenging for the playoffs and the division, you got to beat the Colts, you got to beat the Panthers, you got to beat the Browns, you got to beat the Falcons, you got to beat the Jets on the road.
Yeah.
So
then we get to go to Pittsburgh, where they have no idea who their quarterback is. On
we have
Monday
no idea
Night
where the
Football
quarterback
in the
is.
middle of December. I guarantee you, it's a blizzard. That game's scary. I think that's the game. That is the game where that might be lights out for Tua.
Well, that's a game.
He has to play his best game there.
Well, that's a weather game in my opinion. Yeah. It's going to be cold. All right. It might not be snowing, but it's going to be colder. And it's always windy in December. Okay. What's that going to do to Tua's arm? What's that going to do to Tua's ability to throw? Yeah. You don't want to be in Pittsburgh in December.
Ooh.
What's that?
Steve, I was going to ask it. Who will be the starting quarterback? Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, or just for shits and giggles, will Mike Tomlin play this boy?
Yeah,
Could you imagine
honestly,
Skyler coming into that game and being the Dolphins? That would be hilarious. I would laugh and laugh and laugh.
yeah, that's going to be a low scoring game.
Yeah.
It's going to be a run dominant game because I don't see Tua with his arm being able to complete passes there.
Yeah.
And then again, it wouldn't shock me if the Steelers are involved in the playoff run as well.
Yeah.
At that point,
They're always. The game that scares me the most, because it's what the Dolphins do, beginning of January in Foxborough, where the game matters. That game that is a loss for me. Whether they are, that's a loss for me with even though blinking. That's a guaranteed loss.
well, I won't go guaranteed loss.
I guarantee it right now. I will never change my mind.
I don't like that position.
Hate that game.
And I don't like if Vrabel's teams get better as the year goes on.
Ooh, yes.
All right, they always get better as the year goes on.
Yeah.
They tend to peak end of December, beginning of January, whatever you want to call it. Right, the last 3 or 4 games of the year, that's when they're playing their best football. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy again. Yeah, I don't feel good about that one.
Scares
All
me
right, and again, if you look at the entire season, this schedule should work in Miami's favor. It really should. Okay, you have your road games are soft. I don't know. You want to talk about soft? Okay, your road games are soft. They, except for Buffalo, you should be able to handle this.
Yes.
All right. I mean,
yes.
I mean,
it's pretty pretend. You literally have to go to Indianapolis, then you have to go to Buffalo, then you have to go to Carolina, Cleveland, Atlanta. Then you have to go to the Jets early. Pittsburgh's going to be a tough game. Then you have New England. Like you literally were given your toughest games at home, which is what you want, and you were given your easiest games on the road.
Correct. You used to say you win your home games and go 500 on the road, right?
Yeah.
This schedule on the road, you should be going 5-3, 6-2, pretty damn easy in my opinion.
Easy.
All right, but you're playing a lot. Every game at home, with the exception of the Saints, all right, it is basically against. Okay, well, if you go to Saints,
take away New England and take away
New England,
Jets,
the Jets
early in the year,
and
the rest
Saints.
of them are tough.
All right, those 3 games, should be easy games for you to win. The other 6, that's rough, man. You got some rough home games against teams that are going to be contending for the playoffs with really good quarterbacks.
Yeah. So let's do this, Greg. We're going to do our mock scenario for tonight. Then we'll move on to the needs of this team, which are a lot. So, Colts, for you, quick. Away. Loss, win or loss?
A win.
I agree, win. I'm just going to make the note for us here. Win. Home to the Patriots, week 2.
Win.
Agree, win. At Buffalo, week
loss.
3. Agree, loss. Jets.
Win.
At home. Win. Yeah, we're on the same way path. Win. Win. Panthers.
This is when I first upset. I think they're going to lose this game. I think the Panthers. I think the Panthers are going to be better than what people think.
They win. I think they win this one. So we'll keep going. Chargers.
I think they lose this one as well.
I think they lose. At Cleveland.
Win.
Yeah, you win. Okay. Then you have at Falcons.
Win.
Me too. Ravens at home.
Loss.
Loss. Bills at home.
Loss.
Loss for me too. Then Commanders.
Loss.
Loss. The Commanders, you said loss too, right?
Yes.
For me, it's a loss in the win column. It's a win for Finstanza. Because at that moment, we will have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll be 6-4. We'll be suffering our 5th loss. Chance to make the playoffs. Keep going. We're losing 3 in a row. Chris Greer says, we're not doing this the third year. We're not doing this again, McDaniel. We're not starting off 6-2, and now you're putting me 6-5, McDaniel. What the heck are you doing? Salut la visite. Have a nice time, Mike McDaniel. Go. You could be our ball boy. Anthony Weaver, head coach for the rest of the season. Mark my words. New Orleans Saints, home.
They win that game.
Why do they win? Because when you hire a new coach, you know what happens? You ever see that in sports? You hire a new coach, he gives you that kick in the ass. Win. Exactly. At New York Jets.
Win.
Win for me too. At Pittsburgh Steelers.
Loss.
I actually think that's a win, but you think that's a loss, right? I think that's a win. Bengals.
I'm going to say loss again.
Me too. That's an easy loss. That's the Matthew Weaver loses his first game. Tampa Bay.
I have that as a win.
So do I.
I can't, in my mind, I can't have them losing the last 4.
And then the Patriots game.
I think they lose that one.
Me too.
I think they lose at Steelers and at New England
have
because of weather.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have another 8 and 9 season.
Yes.
And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I actually have them 10-7. So, interestingly enough, another 10-7 season. And the only reason they make the playoffs, at 10-7 as the last wild card spot, is they win 4 of their last 6, and they change their coach. Because if I tell you this now, they lose 3 in a row. If McDaniel's there, I believe that if I redid mine and didn't have 10-7, I will redo it. I'll give the win at the Saints. They lose to the Jets. They lose to the Steelers. I don't think they win again. I actually think they
they could end the year from
I actually
5-0.
think they finish 7-10. I literally think they can go from a 10-7 team to from a 7-10 team to a 10-7 team with the flick of a coach. If you keep McDaniel losing 3 in a row coming back, like it is literally the definition of insanity. Insanity.
So I'll say it this way. All right. I do not see Tua playing all 17 games. All right. They're also probably going to play against some backup quarterbacks, and it's May, for Christ's sake. So you have no idea what these teams are going to be like, and once the season starts. But I don't think the talent on this Miami team is better than the talent in the last couple of years. I think it's actually worse. All right. And I am not I cannot see them having a winning record with this talent level.
I only think second year, I told you, Anthony Weaver for me, Bobby Slowick, like some of the coaches I have a little faith in, but no, Mike McDaniel for me is your problem. He will always be your problem. So now that we've looked at it, that's our first. We'll see what happens a little bit. But now we're talking about the Jarvis Landry trade vibe saga. What do you got? We're going to talk about that now, Raphael. When you look at the remaining needs, let's look at all the positions. Let's talk offense. quarterbacks are pretty much set. You know what your QB room is going to be. You have Tua, you have Ewers, you have Wilson. Fine. I have no problem with that. You have him under contract. I'm okay with that. Totally fine. Running backs, you have Madison, you have Gordon, you have Wright, and you have Achane. As long as they don't put Achane up the A gap and they use Wright, Madison, and Ollie Gordon properly, I'm okay there. Wide receiver, I have a problem. So stop me. Okay, quarterback, you're good for now, for what it is.
Well, yeah. No,
Okay. Running backs, you're good.
I don't like them, but they're not going to change anything, and they're not going to get better. So yeah.
If he uses them properly, I think they'll be fine. We don't have an A. We don't have a what. We have a 1A, we have a 1A, a 2B, a 2B, a 3. That's what we have. We don't have an A. We don't have an A. We don't have an A goal. We don't have a 1. We don't have a pure 1 running back.
We do not have a pure 1 running back, and we do not have a pure.
I already forgot about Ingold. Ingold doesn't count. After last season, he doesn't count.
Yeah, and he wasn't good last year.
He was awful last year.
All right, so I'm
over Ingold.
I'm
very
over
nice philanthropist.
Well.
He's very good to the community. I'm not worried about him.
No, he's an excellent person. He's an excellent human being. He's been a very good football player. Don't get me wrong.
Who was a great person?
Yeah, he wasn't good last year. All right,
he was awful. He couldn't block.
He was not good last year. So
he couldn't block a cold.
Yeah.
So then we have wide receivers. You have Taj Washington, Malik Washington. You have Nick Westbrook. You have Tyreek. You have Waddle. I'm not happy with. I'm not pleased.
I'm fine with the wide receivers.
When you're praising Nick Westbrook as like the savior for this wide receiver core, that's a problem. When your number 3 is what you're excited about, we were excited about Cedric Wilson. We were excited about OBJ.
No, I mean the team goes as far as Waddle and he'll take some. All right, and as long as McDaniel isn't stupid like he was in 2024 to cut them completely out of game plans, they got a shot. All right, because they're good players, but if you're going to focus on the run game and you're going to focus on giving your mediocre running backs, the majority of the touches and expecting miracles for them to produce, then your offense is going to suck again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Maston, Gordon, Ingold bothers me. Raphael. Now you have the tight ends where basically you have Jonnu Smith. Who else do you have?
You have Jonnu Smith.
I don't want to hear Tanner Connor. I don't want to hear Julian Hill, because every time you're going to see Devon Achane or Jalen Wright or Ollie Gordon get extra chunk yards, it's coming back for a holding penalty because Julian Hill couldn't let go.
Jonnu Smith is a nice receiving threat. Okay. He's not a top 5 tight end. He's probably in that second tier of tight ends, which is fine. Okay. I still think they lose something. They don't have a good enough blocking tight end. They don't have the players to set the edge to be an outside zone type team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. To me, the key to offense this year is the philosophy. It's the philosophy. It's what are you trying to accomplish? All right. I've said this stat before. I'll say it again. All right. You are more than 4 times more likely to score points if you have a chunk play in a drive, a chunk play of 20 plus yards. All right. You have the players on the field to get you those chunk plays. But if you want to be ball control and dink and dunk your way down the field, this team is offensively is going to be just brutal.
Disaster. Yeah, we mentioned Theo Weiss, but honestly, if anyone thinks that we're relying on a UDFA to take us to the next level in the NFL, what do they have an NFL draft for? What's the point of the NFL draft if we're praising undrafted free agents? Because as good as Kader Kohu has been, and as good as Storm Duck may have been last year, in moments, what do? They didn't add wins to us. They didn't help our wins. They were complimentary players. Didn't make a difference in our lives. Always remember that. They're great. It's very exciting to have these players who come out of nowhere. I'm proud of them. Good for them. They were stars in college, but they don't change. They don't move the needle at all.
No, look, you praise them because they're on an NFL roster.
6'2", yeah, he's 6'2". Doesn't mean Tua can hit him.
You praise them because those undrafted free agents are on an NFL roster. All right.
Yeah.
I love it when 6th and 7th round players make rosters. All right. That's great. All right. It's a great story. But they don't move the needle. They fill roster spots. They contribute on special teams. You need those guys. You need those guys on your team. But your main players aren't coming from the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. They're not. They're coming from the top 3 rounds.
Yep.
The vast majority of the time. They're not coming from UDFA.
Farrell Brown. Farrell Brown is there. Farrell. Now you're looking at the offensive line. I know you're not a big offense. I know you an offensive line, but is the line better this year than last year because you replaced Jones with? Let me ask you: you take away Armstead, who was injured most of the year off and on. You take away Rob Jones. You take away Eichenberg, and you replace him with Paul Savinaya and James Daniels, and you have Austin Jackson back. Is it a better O line?
I'm not sure.
With Liam Eichenberg not in that line, you could tell me with a straight face that line's not better.
I'm not sure. I don't know I don't know how good the left tackle is. All right.
He's big with long arms.
He's big with long arms who couldn't see the field for 2 years. All right, as a 2nd round pick. All right.
Did he see it for 2 years? It was his first year last year.
No, he was drafted 2 years ago, wasn't he?
No, last year.
Oh, okay. 1 year. I'm sorry. All right.
And you had an All-Pro Hall of Famer left tackle.
Well, and then they had to sign a backup to be the backup left tackle. All right.
But they like Kendall Lamb. They kept on bringing back Kendall Lamb just because they like Kendall Lamb.
All right. So I don't know what to expect out of him at left tackle. Do I think the guards are better? Yes. All right. Do I think they get better at inside running because of the guards? I'm not sure because Brewer still struggles with people on his nose. All right. It's hard to get short yardage when the center isn't good blocking man up.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm not sure that they're gonna. I'm not sure that people are going to see them being better. Will they be better in pass protection? Probably. All right. So when Armstead's in there, they're going to be good at left tackle.
Yeah.
All right. And yeah, Paul did okay at left tackle.
He's a rookie.
Right? Well, as a rookie 2nd rounder, so he should be at least okay. Yeah. All right. But Armstead isn't okay when he played. All right. Armstead is top 6, 7.
Yeah. But as we like to say, but that's what we always want to remember. Tua is a lefty. The bigger job is on Austin Jackson. It's not on Patrick Paul.
Well,
Tua is going to see what's coming at him when Patrick Paul falls or not able to stop the rusher. Austin Jackson has to have the much better year. I need Austin Jackson to stay on his feet because if he gets injured again, then we're screwed. I'm less worried about Patrick Paul going down than I am Austin Jackson. Austin Jackson has to.
But here's the thing, all right? When you have Armstead on the line in the game, you can put him on an island and you can help Austin Jackson. You can help the blind side.
Yeah.
All right. Are you going to be able to do the same thing with Paul?
Yeah, because you're going to put James Daniels at left guard.
Well, yeah, but James Daniels.
You're going to put the veteran next to him. You're not going to have 2 rookies next to each other.
Well,
that would be crazy.
Well, but regardless, all right. basically your blocking scheme is dictated by defensive line and how they're going to be playing. All right, and what positions are going to be playing. All right,
The anchor of the line is Aaron Brewer.
If you isolate the left tackle with Armstead in there, you felt good about that. All right. Are you going to feel the same way about Paul?
Honestly,
that's all I'm saying, because
that's all on Butch Berry. You had a year in the system. You have to kick his ass in the offseason. If any big kid on the line, he has to work on his footwork. If he works on his footwork, Paul will be a reasonable enough person, because the famous line is Tua releases quickly. So if Tua it's not a bonehead, Paul will be fine.
Well, and again, you can't help everybody. You can't help both tackles.
No.
All right, especially with your Smurf running backs in the game. All right, so in an overly simplified way, you have a guard help a tackle, you have a guard help a center, right? You work those two in parallel, and then if you have to help the other tackle, it's usually with a running back. All right, or a tight end. Okay, so but if you do that, you're keeping somebody in to block, and you only have 4 eligibles out.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to help Armstead. That's my point. All right. You could count on Armstead handling whatever was going on over there by himself.
Yeah.
All right. You don't have that luxury now. So what are you doing to compensate? And Ollie Gordon might be able to block and catch. Okay. But he might not be on the field ever. All right. And if you put him in, and if you put somebody in to block all the time, that signals to the defense what's happening too, and then they make adjustments off of that.
Yeah.
So
let's move on to the defensive line, who's now consisted of my favorite player on the team, Zach Sealer, Jordan Phillips, Benito Jones, Alex Huntley, Kenneth Grant, Matthew Butler, Zeke Biggers.
They got plenty of people. They got plenty of people there. I'm not worried about those guys at all. I really aren't. I wasn't worried about them with before Grant, to be honest with you.
So they figure it out.
Well, there's enough bodies there and enough talent there to make it work.
Yeah.
And I didn't sit back last year and say, well, that Calais Campbell's soft. You can run right at him, and the defense is going to suck because of it. So the defense did a pretty good job stopping the run for the most part.
Yeah. Now this position of who do we have on the edge? We have Chop Robinson, we have Jalen Phillips, we have Muhammad Kamara, we have Daquan Jackson, we have Bradley Chubb. The edge rushers, I'm not worried about the edge rushers.
We got enough of them. It's just a matter of them staying healthy now. And I'm good with it. I'm good with that. I'm good with the linebackers.
Oh, yeah, you're okay with let's go over the linebackers. Jordan Brooks, KJ Britt, Quentin Bell. We have random guys on the roster. We signed William Bradley King. We have who else do we have? Eugene Asante. We have people I've never heard of. Willie Gay Jr., Cameron Good, Daquan Jackson, Derek McClendon, Grayson Murphy, and the good old Channing Tindall. How has he not been cut yet?
It's
all about Jordan Brooks.
It's all about Jordan Brooks. All right. And when I'm saying I'm good with it, I think they could be improved? Yes. All right. There's not a standout linebacker there. There's not an all-pro type
Brooks
linebacker.
Could get there. Huh? Jordan Brooks.
Maybe. All right. I mean, there are better linebackers in the AFC than him. I'll say it that way. Okay. But I don't think they're a liability like they have been in the past, or as big a liability as they have been in the past. I mean, you can't be perfect everywhere. All right. And this group is good enough to where I think you can win with.
Yeah. Let's talk about our favorite positions. where
Yeah,
we have a lot of people there, but boy, oh boy, are they bringing people in. And when I saw the fact that Rasul Douglas was given, the fact that you want to go get another Buffalo Bill that sucked, like, what are we doing here? Asante Samuel, neck issues. The only way because they're going to trade Jalen Ramsey for who knows what, they have to go back out and trade for another corner. Or, of all things, convince X to come back. Because at this point, and that'll make Dahl happy. But honestly, there's no corners out there that are worth the
no.
what's that famous line? They're not worth the thing that you shine. I forget what that's called. The shoe you shine. I can't remember the terminology. Worth it. It's not worth the dollar it's written on. It's not worth the. It's the exact famous line. Because let's go over this. Undrafted free agent B.J. Adams, Ethan Bonner, who everyone thinks is this great guy, Artie Burns, who cares? We signed him. Storm Duck, Isaiah Johnson, Kader Kohu, Jason Maitre, Jason Marshall, not Jalen Ramsey, he's gone. Ethan Robinson, Kendall Sheffield, Cam Smith, Elijah Campbell.
No,
garbage. This is the worst secondary in sports. On the outside boundary. On the boundary, we have nobody. Who can't play the boundary.
Yeah, I do not understand. I don't understand.
How did they go into the draft with that? How did they come out of the draft like that?
Well, I don't. You people say you don't draft for need, right? And you don't overpick somebody for need. You don't draft a third rounder in the first round because he's a cornerback and he's the best corner on your board. All right. You don't do that. You don't reach like that. Yeah. But in this draft where Miami was drafting, the player rankings pretty much matched up with basically you could almost rebuilt the entire secondary in the first 3 rounds of this draft. Just the way the draft played out, okay, with good players, maybe not all pros or anything like that, but I don't understand how you can go into an NFL season in today's NFL playing against the quarterbacks and the wide receivers that you're going to be playing against with this secondary. I really don't. This secondary scares the holy hell out of me. This secondary is bad enough, all right, to where if 3 or 4 players don't drastically exceed my expectations, they're going to be awful. Okay, and the funny thing is you're going to be able to say the Miami defense was a great defense stopping the run because nobody ever ran against them because they didn't have to, because passing the ball was simple. Okay. And that's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is that we are going to make average to bad quarterbacks look pretty good because our secondary is going to get toasted.
Why? We have Jordan Colbert 6'2", Ashton Davis 6'1", Patrick Roy 6 feet, Ifatu Melifanu 6'3", John Saunders 6'2", Dante Trader the Shrimp at 5'10". The safeties are huge. They're huge. They may not be able to play football, but they're big.
Well, unless Weaver has basically said we are going to not play man defense at all. We're going to do all kinds of zone. I want length and reaction in the zone, in the zones to basically cover as well as we can. And he has faith in the linebacking core to cover the crab positions. If you look at anything going on online right now, and say, okay, we're going to play this. We're going to basically play this soft prevent zone where nothing gets behind us, and we're going to hope that our defensive line makes a play and basically not expose this secondary, because this secondary, in my opinion, is going to get exposed. Look, come week 1 or 2, if the secondary plays well, all right, or maybe the first month of the season and the secondary is playing well, I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong. I I'll,
Josh Allen is going to cook them like you've never seen.
I have no problem saying I am dumb and I have no idea what's going on.
I don't agree
All
with
right,
you. I don't agree with you. I know why.
what?
Because in the first 2 weeks, they're probably going to face 2 running quarterbacks. The secondary is not going to have to do that much.
Well, here's my point though. I think those quarterbacks are going to make plays against the secondary. All right, and I don't consider them to be very good at all. That in our picks, I picked Miami to lose to Bryce Young at the Panthers. Why? Because I think he's going to be able to make plays on the secondary. All right, and if Miami gets in a shootout with the way McDaniels has been calling plays, I don't think Miami has the ability to score 30 points to win a game, and it would not surprise me if the Panthers put up 30 against Miami.
Wow. But I have more faith. Honestly, I have more faith in Anthony Weaver. I just have this feeling that he got snubbed again this year. He thinks he's capable. In the back of his mind, he knows that if McDaniel struggles, he's the only guy they're going to hire.
Well, I just don't think you can, make chicken salad out of chicken.
Dan Campbell did. When he coached the Dolphins, there was a sense of pride. That's also one thing about this team. The team is so disjointed right now because you haven't heard from Tua. Tua's mad at Tyreek. Tyreek's caused all his stuff off the field, whatever. You haven't heard from Jalen Waddle. Where are the leaders? Outside of Seattle, where are the leaders on this team? Like, by the way, you know what defines the season? If you see a C on Tyreek Hill's jersey this year, they haven't learned a thing. A thing. And you think Mike McDaniel has the cojones to go up to Tyreek Hill saying you're not a captain this year? Do you think the players who vote are going to actually be able to stand up to Tyreek Hill? Not a chance. 100% he's going to have the C on his chest.
Right. I think one of the more underreported things that we don't talk about enough the last 2 years with Miami, all right, in 23 and 24, is just how bad the quarterback situation was that Miami played against to make the defense look better than what I think they were talent-wise. I don't know if they're going to get that break this year. No. All right, they're playing some very good top echelon quarterbacks. All right, and my question is will they get exposed? Because it seems to me, even with the Ramseys of the world and things like that, when Miami plays good quarterbacks, bad things happen on that defense. Yeah. So I look at what is Josh Allen going to do? What's Bryce Young going to do? What's Herbert going to do? All right, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen again, Daniels. All right, you got Joe Burrow, you got Baker Mayfield. Okay, if it was so easy to contain those players, teams would have been containing those players already. Yeah, and that zone shell, that zone structure works really well when the play is basically in the first phase of the play. As soon as the quarterback makes a move, as soon as the quarterback extends the play, and it tilts the zone, or some player has to come up to address that. All right, bad things happen, and there's a lot of things bad that can happen with this bunch of quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, this team is the crazy part about this team, and it's only the month of May. They're anywhere between a 6 to 10 win team. Like they're once again so unpredictable. And this is why I want to ask you, for remaining needs, who could they possibly go get that could actually make a difference I don't think they could do anything in free agency. It has to come through a trade because you're about to trade an all-pro corner for
Yeah.
probably a 5th-round pick to the Rams. And so you're basically going to get less than what they got for him because they got a third and Hunter Long. What could we go do? What is out there? What could they possibly do to make this team better?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's anybody out there that you can grab easily to make this team better right now.
Has to be a trade.
It has to be a trade, but then you're mortgaging your future for a season that I predict is going to be 8-9, 9-8 anyway. All right, and maybe worse. I don't. For you to get a quality player at a position of need, you're going to have to trade probably a quality pick in 26 to do that. And do you really want to do that with this team?
No.
To sneak into the playoffs? I don't know. I'd have a hard damn time justifying that.
So in no uncertain terms, I'll say it for both of us, there's nothing they can do to make this team better unless they can come up with some phenomenal trade. There's nothing they can do. This is a team. This team is all going to be about what we talked about before. It's about coaching, and you better hope that of those 7 picks that you drafted, that the Kenneth Grant, the Jonas Savianaya, the Jordan Phillips, the Jonte Traders, the Jason Marshalls, and the Ollie Gordons. I'm less worried about Quentin Ewers because Quentin Ewers is the quarterback. And I'm not worried about Zeke Biggers. All those players in the first 6 rounds better play meaningful minutes on that field. Meaningful downs. If not, same old, same old. There's a reason why Quentin Young and Cooper DeJean were popular in the Super Bowl, right?
You need the offensive skill positions to explode and make explosive plays again. And you need the defense to play above their talent level. And if you really want to make the defense better, figure out a way to make Jalen Ramsey happy, and you don't have to trade him and let him play.
Yeah, fire the head coach.
All right.
Fire the head coach.
Look, Jalen Ramsey's the best player you have on your defense. All right. And people don't want to hear that. People don't want to admit that. But you're trading your best player on your defense for a 5th-round pick because he's not happy here, and you're expecting your defense to get better or stay the same. And to me, it just doesn't make any sense.
No.
And one of my themes this offseason, all right, in this year in general is, the game is not played on a playbook, and it's not played on paper. Players matter, okay? And the teams that have the better players usually win, all right? Don't worry about scheme. Don't worry about anything else. Your best players have got to play at the top of their game for you to win. And the teams with more of those top-end players tend to do really well. And Miami right now, they're going to lose one of their top-end players come June 6th or June 1st or whatever that date is, right? And they have no viable alternative to replace him, to even come close to replacing him. Again, Jalen Ramsey is borderline Hall of Famer when he retires.
7-time All-Pro.
He's. I would argue he is a Hall of Famer, but I can see why people would say he's not. All right.
But the Super Bowl matters.
Super Bowl matters, and he's really, even if he's not, he's borderline. He's really, really good. All right. There's not a whole lot of those types of players in football. All right. To think losing him and you're going to get better because of it, it's naivety. It's just I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah. Because I was looking, by the way, the reason why the Dolphins could be six, it could be a repeat, like I said last season. They could be 6-2 and then fall off a cliff. And they have to
Oh,
play well at the beginning at these gimme games. Because I was looking at their daddy. They have the Ravens on the first game. That will be a tight game. Then they have the Jets, the Dolphins, the Saints, the Patriots, the Falcons, the Panthers. So before they have to be in between, sandwiched between the Chiefs and the Ravens, they get the Jets, the Dolphins, the Saints, the Patriots, the Falcons, and the Panthers. That means they'll be likely 6-1, or they could be 7-0. So you better be 6-2 by the time they hit Kansas City, because then they have Kansas City, the Dolphins, the Bucks, the Texans, the Steelers, the Bengals, the Patriots, the Browns, the Eagles, the Jets. In theory, the Bills are going to go 12-5, 13-4, easy. So you better be way ahead of the game. You should be. You have to be 6-2 or 7-1 at the beginning, and they have the kind of schedule the Dolphins, except for till they have to face the Ravens. They should be 6-2, 7-1 for the key season they are for the list they are given. There's no even with this roster, because you have enough offensive talent on that team. If the coach has a brain to utilize his two best offensive players in Waddle and Hill to win football games.
The schedule shapes up for them to be very successful.
Yeah.
All right.
They couldn't have asked for a better schedule in terms
they couldn't have. And you know, look, every NFL team, right? Every team is going to have a tough part of their schedule. All right. The Dolphins' tough part of their schedule are home games.
Yep.
All right.
In the middle of the season.
In the middle of the season, they're home games. All right. You sit back and you look at everything and take it just in general in May. Their toughest part of the schedule are home games. It's 3 home games in a row, or actually 4 home games in a row. Just one happens to be played in Spain. All right. That's going to determine your season. You got to if you're a legit playoff team, win those games. All right. But honestly, those 3 games, it wouldn't surprise me if the Dolphins lost combined 100-30. Okay. And that's the scary part.
Can you imagine me on post game of those games? Can you imagine me on post game? Because Troy's asking the question, from 1 to 10, what are your guys' confidence that we can win any games against the Bills, Ravens, and Washington? My answer is, can I buy a vowel and take a negative number? My confidence level with Mike McDaniel as coach is 0. If you on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give you a 1. If Anthony Weaver was the coach, I'd give it a 6.
So I would say it's 2 to 4. All right.
Why are you being so nice?
Well, because it's the NFL, all right, and we don't know what the situation's going to be.
But it's Mike McDaniel. What has Mike McDaniel done for you?
And it's Mike McDaniel, and it's the history of the Dolphins not being able to be good teams under his regime, right?
Exactly.
And the one game everybody, especially toward the end of the year, but it's still a talent gap when it's all said and done. All right, the reason the early part of the season is easy is because there's not that big a talent gap between Miami and those teams. All right, and Miami has enough good players at enough key positions to where they should win those games. All right, when they start playing the better teams, the talent gap, you can't make up for that talent gap so much. All right. And those good teams are at home this year. which should give you an advantage, but it's still a big talent gap, in my opinion. The Dolphins have not closed the gap to the Bills. They have not closed the gap to the Ravens. All right. And I think Washington is a legit team to watch out for in the NFC to be.
But, I was going to ask that before. Jaden Daniels could pull a CJ Stroud this year. You never know. He could have a sophomore slump and then get back into his third year. You never know.
You never know, but
because even Tua, even Herbert, even Allen, like the second year is never a great year. It's never a great year.
See, but I think CJ Stroud, it's hard to be good when you lose that many skill position players all at once. All right, and
what Tua needs skill position players in Miami to be successful? Who told you?
So I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
But I also think Jaden Daniels is more talented than Stroud and can do more things. And I don't think I really like him. I really like him. He was really, really impressive, especially in the playoffs for me.
Yeah, for sure. So we're an hour and a half in. You and I always fly through our shows. We appreciate everybody for watching.
Yes.
Greg has to work tomorrow. I have to work tomorrow. I have things I need to get done. But we wanted to get through this because it was a busy week for the Dolphins in terms of the schedule. We wanted to see where we stood. We're pretty much on the same wavelength. For him, it's just straight up no matter what. For me, it all depends on what Mike McDaniel does this season. Any final words, Greg, before we call it a night?
No, I'm just looking forward to it. And I love the off season. I love the optimism of it. Let's bring a little bit of realism to it, though, as well. And
I can't wait for June 1st. I just can't wait for June 1st. We'll be back to criticize the Dolphins for doing nothing post June 1st.
Well,
except get rid of their best player.
Except get rid of potentially their best player. So, Anyway.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. And as always, fins up. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.